I hope you're all having a great evening. I know I start out that way, but I really do mean it. I hope you are having a fun Saturday night. you know, uh, when I think about my life, when I got old enough, like out of elementary school and junior high school, and trying to figure out the woman I was going to be. I mean, all of us go through that adjustment, that changing, right? When I was younger, I was too caught up with performing before even after they were born. Before I reached 7th grade, that's when I started changing. I was very much a tomboy. I beat up the boys because I wanted to please my dad. My dad wanted a boy so much so that was just really all he wanted, was to have a son, right? And so I did everything I could. And believe me, I was into sports. Even into junior high school, I was really into sports. And if one of my siblings was being mistreated, boy, I was a pretty tough boy myself. And boy, I would stand up for them. I could beat up the boys. In fact, to have a girl be intimidating was more effective, I think, than the boys that were bullies thought. They weren't used to having a girl stand up to them and not put up with it, not put up with their crap and their bullying. There was a time I remember getting on the bus to go to school, and this tall guy, this guy that was on the bus, I don't even know why he was doing it. He was targeting my little sister, and he grabbed her and he pushed her down and sat on her. And I went and I grabbed him by the nape of the neck and told him to get his fat ass off my sister, or I'd beat the shit out of him. Isn't that funny? So later on, my sister went and told my parents what I had said. She actually told on me after I should have known back then, right? That they weren't on my team, even though I was on their team. She had to, go tell about all the swear words I said. But, when you're coming in there, and believe me, George taught me how to spar and how to block. Spar and block. Yeah, he did. Thank you for that. And sometimes, and as we get older, we know that we can't always do it like that. We can't always spar and block. We have to use our minds and try to spar and block mentally speaking. But there's no way to possibly convey the acknowledgement and disappointment when the betrayal is coming from your family. Now, there's a part of me that, no, I don't really understand. I was going to say there for a second, oh, I understand. No, that was the old me. No, I don't understand because, we were musical, all of us, we were. There should have never been this domineering energy, but there was always, right? There was always, the older sibling domineering, bullshit, right? And I never knew, but it was more than that though. It wasn't just that. It was like the relatives were doing that too. And I always wondered, why do they treat me differently than her? What's going on? And I went through life trying to figure out what that difference was. Nobody ever told me I was adopted. I never knew. And I didn't know why this energetic, this older sibling, allowing that energy around me, was just sucking the life out of me as I was growing up, because because, you know, she's the oldest and we're just on here and we have to, no, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it because I know however they came to have me in their family, that I was being used. I wasn't allowed to be my full self, to really develop and grow. But I didn't understand why the favoritism over there when I had really powerful talent, you know, and experienced talent. So no, I didn't understand. And so now it's almost like a relief because I don't have to energetically put up with that domineering bullshit. And tell me something. Why is it, really, why is it that as an adult, people think that they are in charge of me? Well, I can tell you why. Because my sister and my ex, who's an attorney, decided to, and other people too, there's probably more than one, tried to get a power of attorney. They got a power of attorney and said all kinds of things about me because I was busy doing my life, not paying attention to any of them. They knew about the inheritance from my family, from my grandmother and JD and all of them. And Uncle Grant too left me a gift, right? You know, so so here I am trying to put all of this together. And that's just one facet of the many facets of this targeting campaign that was done on me. Now, I'm in a position right now where I simply cannot worry about anyone but myself, because I'm the one that's being targeted and I'm the one that needs to be protected. And I called up the little phone, bring, bring, bring. Hello, police. My siblings are stealing an inheritance. I'm being stalked. You know, bring, bring, bring. Police, I'm having problems with this domineering, you know, bullying landlord. You know, bring, bring, bring. You know, I mean, then I type, go to, you know, SLC, DOJ, and say, you know, hey, I'm being targeted by my family and there's life insurance involved because I had a diagnosis of metastatic breast cancer, right? They thought I was going to die. They thought I'd never find out. So they went to, but the thing is, okay, energetically, and I feel like this is why the ancestors have broken through the veil so hard, is because what they were doing was so diabolical to my character and leaving a legacy of me that was so faulty and so disgusting and so absolutely wrong, had nothing to do with the person that I actually am, that they really did break through and say, this is enough and you need to sit up and pay attention to what's going on around you. So, and they did, believe me, they did. You know, I owe it to myself to do whatever it takes to protect myself. Now, let me ask you something. Can you imagine trying to call the police, trying to reach out to people everywhere you can go to try to get some help? I live in the United States of America. I am entitled to my constitutional rights, the rights and to due process in a court of law. Ladies and gentlemen, I am. And my ex, stole from me, got an attorney to help him to really twist and turn the whole case. And they never contacted me. I never even had a chance to say anything about what I had gone through and what my side of the story was. They just stole. They set it up and they committed fraud and they stole. You know you did it. I know you did it. And that's just the way it is, right? And then finding out more about, you know, this relationship with my, you know, ex-husband, attorney, secretary, and them having a kid together. You know, and I already knew that he was bisexual. That was one of the reasons why I left. And so I tell you this because I want you to know that every single twist and turn that they could use to come after me, every tactic, all the people, they got involved to steal inheritance or money that my grandmother left for me. They all got involved. And you know how it feels? Okay, I have something to ask you here for a minute that just occurred to me. Let's say you are a police officer and you are on the job, all right? Let's say your partner, for whatever reason, he's not with you. You're going in, you realize that something's going on, you call, but you just go in yourself and you're waiting for backup, right? And you go into a volatile, really dangerous situation and you're scoping it out. And you realize, man, you shouldn't have come in there without backup, right? Because, wow, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Let's say you put yourself, police or agents, you put yourself in this really dangerous situation. And you've called for backup, but nobody comes. Nobody comes to help you. No, they don't show up to help you. I mean, and this is why we have, you know, these partners, right, in law enforcement. But no, they didn't show up. In fact, not only did they not show up, they stayed back here and they were working on a deal. They were working a scan. They had no intention of showing up and backing you up as you're going in there investigating the crime. And you're left to figure it out and protect yourself and your life all by yourself. Now I want to ask you, police officers, I mean, if you go in there and you don't have backup, like you have to go in first, you've got somebody that's covering you, you've got all of this training to do this thing kind of as a team, right? That could save your life. But every good detective, especially if they're caught in a situation where they're already in it and they just have to call for backup, but the backup never comes. You know, what if you are a victim of a crime and you call the police and you write and you email the judge, you email the DOJ, you do everything you can, right? And you know what they did. It's really obvious that they're not coming to your rescue. How does it feel? How would it feel to live in a society that if you were put into harm's way, that you couldn't pick up the phone and call the police and have them come to your rescue and to protect you? In fact, not only do they not come and protect me, they tried to turn it around and make it my fault. You know, this surveillance, and you know, they had no right to do it. So they get a celebrity to put me on CCTV to cover it all up so it looks okay. And then they forged my name on a contract that, you know, I never signed. Then they did diabolical things to make me look like I was this drug addict, porn star, you know, what, not me. If I'm going to be in porn, I might as well be a star. But no, I wasn't a porn. I was never into porn, never bought porn in my life. Nope, never did it. How does that feel when you want to go, when you use your, you know, you're calling them up and saying, hey, and I didn't even use the emergency line. I call them up and say, hey, this is what's going on. And only as things go on, I realize, you know, okay, the police force should be listening to me. You know, and I reached out, I mean, I wrote the little, now, if it's a non-emergency, you have to go along and just type it all out, right? But they never took me seriously. I sent my information to an attorney / insurance fraud kind of guy. And I told, this is what's going on. Please, you know, and when you are somebody that's been diagnosed with a terminal illness, all of a sudden, everybody that's supposed to love you, that's out the window. They don't love you anymore. You're just walking dead, right? If you've been diagnosed with a terminal illness, you are walking dead. They don't care anymore, okay? Because you're just like, well, she's going to be gone. We can just, you know, do this life insurance thing on her because she's going to go. And you know what else? People that aren't even related to you can jump on board and do that sort of thing, right? How do they correlate? You know, they have to lie and commit fraud to make it seem like you're related. You know, and when you need, and here you are, you're diagnosed with a terminal illness in a time of your life where you need more compassion than you ever have in your whole life. You need people to embrace you and love you. But that's not what they did. If it wasn't for my sense of humor, my laughter, and knowing, like I know exactly what my talents are. I know that. I knew I was a star when I was a little tiny peanut. I knew what my talents were. But in fact, they knew too. And so they tried to steal my work from me and pretend it was them. So obviously, they agree that I have gifts and talents. But this is not a good thing because they're getting paid. I'm not. They're stealing my work. They're making me look like I'm, doing porn on the dark web, right? And then I find out they go around and tell people, oh, she's lying about cancer. She doesn't have cancer. And it finally clicked, and I mentioned something about this way back when, right? And I realized, well, why would they do that when my family and everybody knew that I went through chemotherapy, the whole thing, chemo, radiation, lost the hair, was bald, was sick, lost the breasts, reconstructed breasts, I went through the whole gamut. Okay, they knew it. My employers knew it. Not only, and so they go along and make up this big lie that I solicited them, and they knew very well I had gone through cancer. They knew very well that that later Dr. Bott had told me that it came back and that I had metastatic breast cancer and that I had 3 to 5 years to live, right? But according to them, I'm out there soliciting my bosses, right? And here I am. Why is it that we all know the truth and yet I am sitting here and no one, and I've asked the police to find me, that I have reason to believe because of all this fraud going on, that it makes sense that my parents are obviously not my parents and they're getting this money from somewhere. And this has been one of the investigations. It's just one. Oh boy, there's more. Oh, there's more. I haven't even got into Star Maker yet, and maybe I won't talk about them yet. But those people helped my family, and they got a plethora of people to help them. Destroy my life. And you want me to stand here and say it's okay? Oh, that's all right. Let's be friends. Oh, Treva will make you a star now. And I'm also Pompeii. Oh, by the way, my name on Star Maker is Pompeii. Okay, I am Pompeii, the one they stole from. Oh my gosh. I have every right to have protection. Police protection under that Constitution of the United States of America. Not only that, they had no right to hold any kind of a court, high or low, without my voice, without me present. So, they make fake death certificates. They have a fake funeral, a documentary, right? Can't wait to see that one. And here I am, alive. I know for a fact that if anybody was in my shoes, they would be a lot more irate than I have behaved. But then again, you have to understand, I didn't have that police come in, did I? I had to figure things out for myself and reach out to people and tell them this is what's going on. Please check into this. This is a RICO crime. They have destroyed me for money, and I have every right. Every right. And you know what else? They'll probably come in and block this video, right? Isn't that how it goes? Well, no, you don't get to do that because I have rights. And it isn't my fault that people get involved in organized crime and try to destroy a person for their personal gain. And believe me, okay, I'm smart enough, and I've been watching the news, and I've educated myself enough, even on my own, to know what's going on around me. There's a reason why I am a liberal. There's a reason why I was a Republican. Yeah. I mean, I believe in, being able to use your gifts and talents and become wealthy. No, I don't have a problem with that. However, I still lean on the other side too, because I feel like there, compassion for the world and world of it, the world matters, right? It does. Although I don't understand why leaders of other countries are not taking care of their people. I don't get that. No. And they have to come to other countries to get help for their people. Why is that? I don't know. I would like to know why. But then again, that's another subject, isn't it? But I do know, as a citizen of this country, that I have the right to due process, to be able to speak and know that nobody's going to, invade my rights by blocking my voice. And I had to come to the public to get any help at all, okay? And partially, because of what happened in my community, I don't trust the police. And I'm surrounded in a bubble of staunch religious doctrine that is not it's not standard, okay? I mean, it's LDS, it's not standard. And they came after me when I left that faith because I found out some things that made it pretty clear, that what I, originally believed was not true. Okay, how they told me it all came about, right? And it wasn't, and I didn't try to harm anybody. I didn't try to steer anybody away. Maybe I should have, but I didn't, okay? I was respectful because, these are good people that really do want to serve the Lord. They really are. However, well, most of them will just say, but but some of them are really not behaving like Christians, are they? No, you do not come after somebody and call yourself a Christian. You do not try to destroy a person's life and call yourself a Christian. No, doesn't work like that. You cannot possibly be the true church if you come and attack a person for using their free agency to choose. I don't know what to tell you. All I know is that my government, please don't, you can't fail me. You'll be embarrassed if you fail me. I have every right to speak and to be heard. And nobody has the right to interfere with that. You don't. And it will be pie on your face if you do. Come forward. What's been done to me is just way over the top. It's so much so that it isn't up to me whatever happens because of the crimes that have been committed, whether I press charges, I don't press charges, because the crimes are so significant that I shouldn't even have to be the one pressing the charges. So the government should be pressing the charges, not me, right? I don't want to do this alone. This is an important fight. Because if it could happen to just one of us, if this situation could happen to one person, believe me, it's happened to others. And it could happen to you. If somebody that, in your family finds out that you're diagnosed with a terminal illness and they come after you, instead of giving you the love, can you imagine the heartbreak? Can you imagine how spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally debilitating and like your whole foundation has just shattered? And it's almost like your mind, it can't catch up with the data. It takes time to really And still, I mean, I'm beyond that now, but still, it's just like, what? Is that really who you are? Wow. You know? And when your eyes are open and you find out that these people are not at all, they're not only are they not your family, but everything was intended just to take from you, to steal from you, your energy, your life, your self-esteem. And nobody tells you that you're adopted, but you know that there's a discrepancy. It is my right to get justice for these crimes against me. Crimes that, and them trying to pin things on me and make things up and to try to figure out a way to make me guilty for anything. And I'm not perfect. I mean, I'm not. But they will use religion in a court of law as some sort of, flimsy evidence and then make it seem like it's more serious than what it is. There's a lot of different faiths out there. So how can you just take your faith and use that as any kind of evidence in a court of law? You can't. It's unconstitutional it's prejudice to use religion against a person. That's common. Everybody knows that. And yet you want to use religion to paint somebody's character when the ones that are painting this nasty picture are the ones that are really in horrific hypocrisy. With people, with cheating and kids behind the scene. I mean, oh my gosh. It is just, the hypocrisy runs so very deep. But you are the scapegoat. They want to point all the fingers, all guns on you. And you didn't do anything. And they chose you because, well, namely he stole from me because he was mad that I left him. But if I hadn't, and here he is having a family that it's not even ours. I mean, he had a second family. I'm really glad that I had those nurses come and tell me to get out. I'm really glad. But you don't know the dynamics around him and his family. It was really tough to get away from them in the first place. And I never wanted to see him again, ever, ever. Because I knew what he was really like. But nobody wanted to believe me. They made up a great big story, made him seem like he was just the hero, right? To come after me. I wasn't doing anything to anyone. I really wasn't. They were the last. I was singing. I wanted to sing until the day I died. That's what I wanted to do. And now this whole thing has become very political. Because political people got involved. Leaders got involved and committed some crimes along the way. That is not my fault. Didn't do that. And there is a God. Obviously there is. And he loves me. And he has given me gifts and a light and a talent that I very much intend to use because he wants me to. He wants me to share my talents. And it isn't like I'm not empathetic. But right now, the empathy is totally focused on myself because I know I deserve it. And I know I deserve the protection that I have not gotten yet. And I deserve what is legally and lawfully mine. Even though they decided to erase my name and forge in theirs. Or to pretend like they are me when they're not, to steal money and opportunity. So I'm alive, and there's not anything you can do about it. I guess that's what you get for being deceitful, to being false, to not being who you said you were. And now everybody can see people for who they are, really. No question about it. And why is that? That is not my problem. It really isn't. It really isn't. What you do is not my problem. Okay? Yes, you made it my problem because you attacked me and you targeted me. But at the end of the day, you and we're both responsible for our own actions. Right? I didn't do that. It isn't up to me. The law has to follow through, and that has nothing to do with me. They have to. They have to. And you know what? People out there, you really want them to. Because if you are targeted and the law doesn't step in and do its job, you're going to be pretty freaked out. You're going to realize that your country is in big trouble and that you have no protection out there from criminals. And everyone, even the criminals, need police protection sometimes. Believe me, it's the criminals, the white-collar criminals, that use and manipulate the court system more than us, because usually we don't have the money to go retain an attorney to protect ourselves from these monsters. And they are monsters, okay? And so you have to really weed them out to try to find the ones that really do care about the rule of law. That you really have to try. My bank account is no reflection on the wealth of my spirit and the wealth of the person that I am and the valid person that I am and the right that I have to be alive. You can't take that. There's nothing you can do about it. I'll defend myself in the courtroom probably better than an attorney would anyway. And I'm ready. Oh, I'm ready. Believe me. Now, I don't want to bring people down, but as long as we're on these platforms, you can take this as very positive information. You know why? Because if it happens to you, you need to know that there are people out there that understand, that care about your life. You may not be somebody that's in power, but you shouldn't have to fight for your rights or fight for the police to protect you. Fight for your right to speak your voice and to have due process in a court of law. You should never have to fight for that. That is your right. Absolutely. And this is a frightening time. We have to be on our toes and make sure that our voices are heard. And that these rich people that want to beat us down and not give us our legal rights, boy, that cannot fly. No, we need to wake up. This cannot happen. I don't want it to happen to you or anybody else. I don't want it to happen to anyone else. We deserve better than that. And we deserve people that actually go and do their due diligence and find out if what the narrative is correct. They never bothered. They didn't want to know. You know why? Because they already knew I was innocent. They knew I was innocent. They had to really think to try to create something to make me look bad. They had to use AI and fabricate evidence just to make it look like I'm somebody I'm not. Do you realize how dangerous this is for all of us? Because it is. It really is. It's so important that you hear what I'm saying, because I'm telling you, if my rights can be stolen from me and I can be, my whole character, my life, my hopes, my dreams, my children can be violated in any way, don't you know that you could be next? Because you could. Believe me, you want me to win this thing because it's that important. It's that important. And I do pray so much that you hear what I'm saying, because all of us, rich or poor, as long as you have a beating heart and life, especially if you're innocent, you have every right to have counsel, to have representation in a court of law in front of a fair judge. How dare you? How dare you think that you can just twist and turn a court system to ruin someone? And you want me to be nice? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Shame on you. No. This has to be made right. This has to be made right in the right way. It's not my fault. But I do want to warn people of what's going on out there. It's just that important. It really is. That you get that right to speak. You do. As long as you have a beating heart and breath, you matter. You matter.